Just like thousands of other college students worldwide, 21-year-old Samantha Josephson ordered an Uber after a long night out. However, she was spotted on security footage mistakenly entering a car that was not her Uber ride. This was the last moment she was seen alive. It's unclear the exact events that occurred after the car drove away, but when Samantha's body was found the next day, covered in stab wounds from head to toe, the police worked quickly to identify the suspect and a motive for such a crime. But what they discovered seems to be much more sinister. Samantha's attack appeared to be solely a crime of random opportunity that ended in her being completely brutalized. This is the frightening death of Samantha Josephson. Welcome to 10-Minute Murder, brief and bingeable true crime. I'm Joe, the host. Welcome back, Joe. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. I'm back from my extended work trip, and I want to say a quick thank you to the hosts of the podcast that I asked to guest host while I was away, Natalie of Talk Murder With Me, Liz and Katie of True Crime New England, and Emily and Megan of Popcorn Murder Stories. They did me a huge favor and guest hosted while I was away, and didn't leave you guys wanting content. They didn't leave you guys hanging with, well, what's going on with 10-Minute Murder? We haven't heard from him in 2 weeks. Instead of that, you got very interesting cases and very interesting stories from some of the podcasts that I personally listen to. And again, thank you so much to them for agreeing to do that. And I got a few emails while I was away. Some of you figured out where I was. And it wasn't like I was posting to the 10-Minute Murder social media places of where I was and what I was doing. But some of you know, because some of you know me personally. But some of you knew where I was, and I don't know how you knew where I was and what I was doing. I don't know if I should be afraid or impressed. Maybe a little bit of both, but I guess I shouldn't be too surprised because this is a community of internet sleuths, right? We thrive on evidence and putting the pieces together and figuring out what the heck is going on. And you guys apparently have done that to me. Anyway, happy to be back, and I'm happy to be back in the seat hosting another episode of 10-Minute Murder. If you are brand new to this podcast, welcome. I'm super excited that you're here. Be sure that before you go, you subscribe. You connect with 10-Minute Murder on all social media platforms. And if you like the show, let other people know about the show. Go to 10minutemurder.com and you'll find links to all the places you can connect and follow and all that stuff. Now, let's get to today's story. Born in 1998, Samantha Josephson was an intelligent child and grew into a determined young woman. She was raised in Robbinsville, New Jersey by her mother, Marcy Josephson, and her father, Seymour Josephson. After her high school graduation, she attended the University of South Carolina, where she majored in political science. She planned to graduate in 2019, as she was a senior at the time of her death. She had already enrolled and earned a full scholarship at Drexel University School of Law, and she aspired to practice international law. During her time in college, Samantha was a member of Alpha Gamma Delta sorority, where she loved socializing and being part of a community. She's also studied abroad in Barcelona for a time and visited Madrid and Paris. So it goes without saying that Samantha was a very accomplished, smart, and outgoing person. On March 28, 2019, Samantha enjoyed an evening with her friends at the Five Points District in downtown Columbia. The night was turning into morning, though, so at 2 a.m., she ordered an Uber outside of the Bird Dog Bar. A car could be seen on surveillance footage approaching the sidewalk. Samantha made her way to the vehicle, thinking it was her Uber. However, this car drove away, likely trying to find whoever they were looking for. Samantha then retreated back to the sidewalk. It's clear she was just looking for any car that resembled an Uber to take her back home. She searched again, and then at 2:09 a.m., a black Chevrolet Impala pulled slightly onto the handicapped parking spot next to Samantha. She quickly walked over to it, and without hesitation, she stepped into the car and shut the door. The driver waited for traffic to clear and then pulled out onto the street. This interaction was entirely normal, and no onlooker would assume otherwise. However, inside the car, the driver immediately activated the child locks, preventing Samantha from escaping. Shortly after this, Samantha's original Uber driver canceled the ride due to her not being there when they showed up. The next day, Samantha's roommates were concerned she had not returned home. Shortly after they reported her missing, though, a turkey hunter came across the body of a battered woman lying in a field in the town of New Zion, 65 miles from downtown Columbia. It was immediately apparent and obvious that foul play was involved. Samantha's body was almost unrecognizable due to her extensive injuries. An autopsy revealed that she had died of multiple sharp force injuries, specifically from being stabbed approximately 120 separate times. The forensic pathologist was unable to determine an exact amount of wounds due to there being so many of them. It was also revealed just how much blood had escaped her body. The average human body carries nearly 5 liters of blood, but Samantha's body only contained 1.3 tablespoons. She suffered numerous defense wounds on and through her hands, indicating that she fought to protect herself from the strikes. She was also stabbed in the head with enough force that the knife went through her skull and straight into her brain. Stab wounds were even found on her legs and on her feet. There didn't seem to be an inch of her body that was uninjured. On high alert, the police spotted a car that matched the description of the one that she had been seen entering. They pulled the car over, but the driver fled the car and ran on foot. The police were able to stop him, and he was arrested at 3 a.m. on March 30th, almost 24 hours after Samantha was driven to her death. The driver was identified as 27-year-old Nathaniel Rowland. After searching his car, the police found a vast amount of evidence against him: a container of liquid bleach, germicidal wipes, and window cleaner. Much more incriminating, though, was Samantha's phone, as well as a huge amount of her blood. The child locks were still activated. The police then searched the dumpster behind Nathaniel's girlfriend's residence. They discovered more cleaning supplies as well as a 2-bladed knife. Both items were also covered in Samantha's blood. Her blood was then found on a sock and a bandana, both owned by Nathaniel. Samantha's DNA was collected from underneath Nathaniel's fingernails. He was officially charged with the kidnapping and murder of Samantha, as well as possession of a deadly weapon during the crime. His trial began on June 20th, 2021. Prosecutors called 31 witnesses to testify, including the turkey hunter who found Samantha's body, a store owner who testified that Nathaniel attempted to sell him the phone the day she went missing, Nathaniel's now former girlfriend, and several investigators and experts. The defense called no witnesses, and Nathaniel did not testify. The former girlfriend, Maria Howard, testified that Nathaniel had not come home the night of Samantha's abduction. When she needed her visor for work that next day, Nathaniel told her he threw it out because it was covered in blood. She asked him why it had blood on it, and he replied, "Mind your own business." Maria also stated that she noticed blood all over his car when he drove her to work. Again, he told her to mind her own business. He repeated that same phrase for the 3rd time after Maria caught him scrubbing his Impala and a knife with bleach that afternoon. She had also seen him in possession of a rose gold cell phone that she did not recognize, which was later found to be Samantha's. On July 27, 2021, Nathaniel was found guilty of kidnapping and murdering 21-year-old Samantha Josephson. Judge Clifton Newman sentenced him to life in prison. Newman characterized Nathaniel as being, quote, heartless, and said that this was the most severe murder that he had ever seen in court. After Samantha's death, her parents established the What's My Name Foundation, which works to educate people about rideshare safety. It strongly recommends that you ask your driver before you get in, "What's my name?" before entering the vehicle to ensure the safety. They've also worked extensively with lawmakers to advocate for policies that will enhance safety when traveling with strangers. On June 5, 2019, the Samantha L. Josephson Ride-Sharing Safety Act was signed into law in South Carolina. It requires rideshare vehicles to display their license plate numbers on the front of the vehicle. Also in 2019, New Jersey signed the SAMI's Law, which requires even more efficient identification on rideshare vehicles. Additionally, many other laws were enforced, all of which created a much safer rideshare system. Samantha Josephson has been described as bubbly, loving, kind, and full of life by her loved ones, and she was living a purposeful life before it was so tragically ended. This isn't a case where the victim is to be in any way blamed for stepping into a vehicle that she wasn't certain about. As soon as the child locks were activated, this became a kidnapping. And despite the stacked evidence against him, Nathaniel continues to profess his innocence. So it's uncertain if we'll ever learn the truth of what exactly took place in that car after Samantha was abducted. It's also unlikely that we'll ever learn of a true motive, making this case that much more disturbing and scary. This random act of violence means that it could potentially happen to anyone, at any time. That's 10-Minute Murder for today. Brief and bingeable true crime. Thank you for listening, and as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, be sure that before you go, you subscribe to 10-Minute Murder. Wherever you're listening right now, hit the subscribe button, and that helps you and it helps me. It's obvious how it helps me, but how it helps you is you don't have to go searching for the podcast every time you want to listen to 10-Minute Murder. It's always going to be there, right there waiting for you, and it's going to pick up right where you left off. Let's say you're in the middle of binging episodes. You're, a couple hundred into it, and you don't have to go back and try to figure out where you left off. The app where you've subscribed, it's going to help you find it. And also, you don't have to memorize the name 10-Minute Murder. You open the app, and if you're subscribed, it's automatically going to be right there. It takes all the work out of it for you. That's what I'm saying. Be sure to connect with 10-Minute Murder on social media if you want to see the visuals that go along with the episodes. You'll find that at 10minutemurder.com, or just as easily, you can just type 10-Minute Murder into the search bar in any social media platform that you're trying to follow, and it's going to pop right up. Lastly, a big thank you to those of you that are leaving 5-star reviews on all the places that you can leave 5-star reviews. I very much appreciate that. That helps the show grow and reach more and more people. Thank you for listening to 10-Minute Murder. Be safe and make good choices.